So what happened after that? We came up, we looked at these two houses.
Yeah.
And the houses were all right. But you had a friend out here that we just was like, we might as well visit her while we were out there. So we ended up going to chop it up with her.
Yeah, and she had just bought her house like not too long ago, or maybe like almost a year prior. And so she was just giving us the full rundown of what it's like to live up here. And she was just basically saying it's not that bad. Like, so right before we left her house, she's like, oh, you may want to drive around this neighborhood because I noticed there was some properties listed. And so we're just like,
yeah, we're just driving. We're
driving
like
around.
just
Like, okay.
like we don't know this area. We're just driving around aimlessly, like at this point. But it just so happens that we actually run into this property that it says for sale. Ruby's like, oh, let's go talk to the owners or whatever. I'm like,
because there was a car parked outside. So it was like for sale, but I could tell someone was there. And he was
regardless, it's still like just random people's houses. So she's like, let's go up to the door. Let's talk to these people who kumbaya. Like, no. I'm like, we're not about to go up there and talk to these people. I'm just going to call the listing agent right now. So she actually runs up there. So
I sat in the car.
Yeah, I sat in the car. I wasn't about to go up to these people's house, but I hang up with the listing agent because I'm just like watching to make sure everything's cool with Ruby, and it just seems like they're laughing and telling jokes.
I knocked on the door and nobody answered, and it was like a long time, and I was like, but someone's here, so maybe they just don't hear me. So I kept knocking. And then I'm like trying to peek in their window like a creeper. And so then finally somebody comes to the door, and it was a lady, and she just seemed like a sweet lady. She was holding a newborn. So I just asked her some questions about her property, how much it was going for, and what what was going on. And she just told me like, this property has been on the market for a long time. She told me why they were moving, how much they were selling it for. I kind of peeked behind her. It was beautiful. And then I was like, to be honest, your home looks beautiful just from my view, but I can only tell you we can't afford it. So I appreciate you giving me all the details, and I wish you the best of luck with selling your home. And then she's just like, okay. And I was like, but if we could afford it, I would definitely be interested because it looks nice. So she's like, well, there's a home right around the corner from here that's the exact same floor plan, and they're selling it for like $200,000. Once she told me that, got back in the car, looked up the address, and it was right around the corner.
Yeah, so we went there and we noticed that there was a car in the parking lot. It was actually like the same car that I drove. It was funny. So, but it didn't have any for sale signs. So I guess we decided, hey, we're just gonna go knock on these people's door like we just did these people. But when we get to the doorstep, it actually had the for sale sign on the porch. So instead of bugging these people, I just called the listing agent, and she's like, oh yeah, the house isn't really listed, or it's not open.
It was like the first day.
Yeah, it was like the first day. So she was like, come back tomorrow and you guys can view the house. It's gonna be like an open house or whatever. So Ruby was busy. I think you were at school or something, right?
Yeah, school or work or something. I think it was, whatever.
I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll just go out there and I'll just take a peek at the house. It's probably like whatever anyway. So I had hit up the realtor that we used again, and she was just mad cool throughout this process. She already knew the situation with our realtor. She already knew that he was sick, but she was still willing to show us these houses and stuff.
That was love.
Yeah, she was just still being nice. So she, she gets the keys, she opens the door, and as soon as she opened the door, it's just like, yo, man, I like fall in love with this crib. I'm like, yo, this got to be our house, fam. Like this house was fire. So like next day, I'm like, I told Ruby, yo, we gotta go back up there so I can show you this house. It's like 6 a.m. We drove out here, and Ruby sees the house, and she's trying to keep her cool, but I think she fell in love with the house.
I did. No, I definitely did. I mean, as soon as like how they say you just know. As soon as I walked in and took my first couple looks around, I just knew, because it's not that the house was perfect. And if you guys haven't seen, we did a new home tour on another one of our videos. So make sure you check that out. But it's not that the house was perfect. It just was, it felt right. It felt like home. It was perfect for us, especially for the price.
Right.
Because it was listed for $195,000.
Yeah, it's right up our alley. So
right up our alley.
We was like, yo, we gotta put in an offer, like right away, right? So we put in an offer. We're new to this whole, placing bids and all this other craziness. So like, they want 195, we're gonna give them 195. But when you hear about closing costs, you usually hear that you can get the seller to assist with the closing costs. So we asked for assistance, and this was like a mistake that we just had to learn the hard way, that we could probably tell you guys a little bit later to avoid. But we asked for assistance, and they just completely declined our offer.
But in case you guys have never bought a home before, it's like there's this thing called an earnest money deposit. And usually when you put an offer in and your offer is accepted, you have a short window of time where you have to put in a deposit that basically says we are committed. So these people needed to turn in their earnest money deposit within like 48 hours, or else the house wouldn't be theirs anymore.
You know, they didn't put their deposit down, so the house just goes straight back to the market. They relisted it, and I'm like, well, you know, if they didn't accept their offer, why wouldn't they just accept our offer? So that, like she said, they said our offer was weak. So we actually got all the details on what they didn't like about our offer. So we were like, you know what, let's just go ahead and let's just give them the max. We just put in $200,000 and we wiped out all of our closing costs. That's pretty much, you know, all we had. We couldn't offer anything.
And the reason why that was a stretch for us is because we offered them what they asked for, which was the $195, and we knew that even at $195, even if they assisted with closing costs, because of all of the additional costs that are associated to buying a home, we knew that we were already going to have to come out of the pocket like $11,000 or $12,000 at that point. And like we said, we only planned on saving $10,000, so that was a stretch for us. So then when we had to offer $200,000 and full closing costs, we had really no idea how we were going to afford it.
Yeah,
but
it's
on
gonna be
paper,
like $18,000.
right? But on paper, it must have looked like we would have been able to, as long as we came up with a certain amount of money down.
Right.
So we just kind of like moved forward with faith, because like I said, we knew that this was our house when we saw it, and all I could trust, I just had to trust God. Like, you know, we prayed about it, we believed God showed us our home, and all we needed to do was have faith. So yeah, that's what we did.
So the second time, like they couldn't tell us nothing. We just thought this house was going to be ours. So we was like, yo, $200,000, wipe off all the closing costs, boom. And you know, we get denied again. They accept somebody else's offer again.
And that was
like,
devastating, because you don't really know, because you don't get to talk to the sellers directly to find out like, what do you guys want? But the good thing that happened was, in the midst of all this, we found out that our lender knew the listing agent, and they had done business before, and they had a really good rapport. She enjoyed working with him, and because she really wanted to help sell the house for her clients quickly, she was like, listen, if these people don't put their earnest money deposit down in time, we're gonna go ahead and just let your people take the house. And so we didn't want to pray against someone else's blessing, but we were definitely praying like, God, if this is for us, please let it work out. And of course, they didn't put their earnest money deposit down.
So we got accepted, and that's something else we have to learn again, because this is like, oh yeah, you get accepted, the house is yours. Nah, wrong. Like, you really could go into escrow and like completely lose the house.
You could fall out of escrow.
Yeah, this was like a hard part of, you know, the whole buying a house process. So
just to catch you guys up, because by the time this happened, this was in November. And throughout this process, from like August, September, October, November, that's when we were going through the NACA stuff, like we said. So once our offer got accepted and we went into escrow, this man was responsible for everything, because I was gone like from sunup to sundown just trying to make money, and he worked from home on the computer.
Yeah, and
so
then when you go into escrow and you get your offer accepted, you think it's about to be smooth selling from there. We got accepted. That's actually where you gotta like grind, and you gotta actually put in work. That's crazy to me.
Basically, the escrow process is just the process of exchange of funds. It's basically like everything that you said that you could do, now we're gonna look into all of your assets, your income, your history, your credit. You know, they do like the background check on you, like everything. They're trying to make sure. So they're looking all into everything about you, looking at your bank statements. Where do you spend your money? Why do you spend your money like that? In addition to that, you have to do things for the house, like you have to get an inspection, and you have to get an appraisal, and the house has to pass the inspection, and the appraisal has to match up with the amount of money that you offered, and just like all kind of things that I'm pretty sure you guys can look at a ton of YouTube videos or ask us in the comments below, and we can give you more details on. But basically, it's a very daunting process.
Yeah. Aside from all of this, you know, that we got to go through, we run into another roadblock with my job. So the underwriter looks at this and she's seeing like a decline in my bonuses. So she's like, well, why would I want to consider that as his, you know, income if it's just declining? That's just pretty much extra money that he might get. So we were running the risk of losing all of that, and if we lost all of that, then
we weren't gonna get the house, because like I said, we couldn't use any of my income on paper. Yeah. So even though I had money to contribute to the home, it was only his money on paper, and his money barely qualified as being enough. So
we were just, you know, running the risk of losing the whole house. So we needed to get this bonus by a certain amount of time. We didn't really get it at that time, so we had to release these contingencies, and basically we just took a leap of faith right there as well. But yeah, it actually ended up working out for us at the end. You know, I finally got my deposit, or I finally got my bonus.
Like a week before closing.
Yeah.
Like a week before
Just
closing.
pushing it.
Like that his job finally sent his bonus out, which basically showed that he is making this consistent amount of money every year because his bonuses are consistent. It's just all this stuff. In addition to that, we ended up having to extend escrow by a week, which was pushing it because, like we said, our friends asked us to be out of their house by the end of the year. So our escrow was supposed to close January 6th, and it didn't end up closing until January 13th. So I feel like they were looking at us like, we love you, but you gotta go. I feel like one of the reasons why it was delayed too is because, so basically, even though I was making money, I didn't report any money on paper, so I had to filter my money through a relative as a gift, right? Because when you're buying a home, technically your relatives can send you gift money. This is basically money that they sign on, paper saying, I'm giving this to you and I'm not gonna expect it back. It's not a loan. So if they do that for you, then they can assist you with all your down payment and closing costs, and that is a lot of times how people buy homes. So I had to give my money to a relative who had a credible income, who had to then send it. And I think there was just like some issues with that, like just reporting on that and just everything like lining up on paper. So it ended up pushing out the escrow process by like an additional week. And like literally, like you don't know if the house is yours until you get to the escrow company and sign the final papers.
Yeah, you gotta go through a lot of stuff. It's basically like in escrow. Everything that you claim that you have, everything that you claim you can do, they want to see it in action. So we ran into all of these road bumps, and another one of those things is, like we said earlier in the story, we had no idea how we were going to come up with $18,000. Like, we just wanted to put the bid out and we wanted to get the house. So now we're in this position where we have to come up with the money and we don't have the money. So